What's going on, all my loyal Dragonites out in the Dragon Den? King of Dragons 5000 is back with another action figure review. Today we'll be taking a look at the Hiya Toys Rodan from Godzilla, King of the Monsters. But before we have a look at the action figure, let's actually take a look at today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is brought to you by the Jewel Gallery. Jewel Gallery, home to the largest selection of jewelry in the Southwest. Rings, necklaces, pendants, and other fine jewelry. Jewel Gallery is also the home of the one and only Jewelgram. So come in and find your fit at the Jewel Gallery, where it's all about the ring. Out of the box, Rodan is very impressive, but before we have a look at his detail, let's run through his one and only accessory. Rodan comes with a modular flight stand which looks really nice and it is rather impressive. Other than that, Rodan really doesn't come with any other accessories, so with that out of the way, let's move on to his details. Rodan looks very impressive here in his Hiya Toys rendition. His molten scales on his wings look very good, especially with the black and orange paint job. The overall feel of the figure looks really good and accurate to what we saw on screen. Having a look at Rodan's head, very impressive with the sculpt work here. His beak is nicely sculpted and you can see some parts on his beak which look like teeth. The horns are sculpted really nicely and you can see that molten scale pattern going throughout his head. Continuing down, Rodan does have a multi-segmented neck. And as you would expect, it continues that molten scale look. Rodan's body is done very nicely. I love the way his scales look on this figure. The fact that most of his body is done with really nice dark paint, you can really see the orange underneath that. The way he's painted, you can tell there is some molten magma underneath his scales. Rodan does have a rather small body, but as you would expect, that's accurate to what we saw on Godzilla, King of the Monsters. He does have tiny little legs which continue that molten scale look, however, I do feel like the paint could have been better on his legs. In my opinion, we have a little bit too much orange showing on his feet, but overall the paint is still really good on his legs. His body does come to a diamond-shaped tail, which looks really nice. And a nice little detail is that Rodan does have a vertical ridge for his spine. Finally, we're taking a look at Rodan's wings, and oh my goodness, does he have an impressive wingspan. I love the way Rodan's wings were designed in King of the Monsters. His wings carry over that cooling magma effect. On his arms we do have darker paint which look really good, and it still has some orange poking through it. And as you get to the edge of his wings, you can see the magma still ignited. So overall, Rodan has some impressive sculpt work and even more impressive paint job. And his near 15-inch wingspan is no laughing matter. This guy will take up some shelf space. But with the paint and details out of the way, let's get Rodan compared to our usual suspects. Here we have Rodan posed next to a Marvel Legends Cyclops and a DC Multiverse Superman. Mattel's WWE Elite Series and Mezco's 1/12 Collective Popeye the Sailor Man. The Lightning Collection White Ranger and the Star Wars Black Series Mandalorian. Here we have the Hiya Rodan posed next to the NECA Rodan. And finally, we do have Rodan posed next to the Hiya Toys Godzilla. So Rodan is impressive in terms of size, both in wingspan and body length. And checking the official Monsterverse scales, he does scale really nicely to Godzilla. So with his comparisons out of the way, let's run through his articulation. Rodan does have a hinge in his jaw, ball joint in his head, and a multi-ball jointed neck. Double ball joint in his torso, ball joint in his hips, hinge and swivel at his knee, as well as hinge and swivel at his foot. Ball joint in his tail. He has a ball joint in the shoulder and a wireframe running the length of his wing. So overall, Rodan has an interesting articulation scheme. I do love the fact that there's a wireframe running the length of his wing, giving his wing some flexibility. So with everything said and done, let's actually get Rodan posed for my final thoughts. As you guys know, I am a fan of the Hiya Toys Monsterverse figures, and Rodan here is a great addition to the collection. Rodan has some very impressive paint work throughout the figure. The fact that the black is done really nicely and covers up most of the orange does give him the look of cooling magma. I do like the paint job on his wings where we have the darker parts on his arms, and as we get to the edges it does have that orange magma color. I am a little disappointed that the promotional figure did show a little bit of red on this figure, and as I can tell, there's really no red on him. But Rodan here does look exactly like he did in King of the Monsters, so I really can't complain on the sculpt work. Rodan looks impressive, and I am really happy that he scales to Godzilla and Kong. I do wish he came with an explosion and maybe his outpost containment area. But for the size of this figure and the fact that he does have bendable wings, I think I'm okay with that. The modular stand is also really good, so you can get Rodan in different heights. If you are looking for a Rodan, he is available on pre-order at Big Bad Toy Store at the time I'm making this video. Rodan is just a great figure overall, and I am really happy to have the Hiya Toys Rodan in my collection. And before we wrap up this video, I want to take a moment to thank the Jewel Gallery for once again sponsoring this video. And as always, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, and check out all my other Godzilla videos. Check out my Instagram account for new and exciting action figure photos, videos, and other goodies, and ring that bell so you never miss another video. And until next time, my fellow Dragonites coming from the Dragon Den, I'm KingofDragons 5000 reminding you to redesign, rebuild, and reclaim. I'll see you next time.